Welcome back to Shotgun The Aux. Welcome to our New Year's Eve edition. Obviously, we haven't filmed this on the same day as the Christmas special, as I'm wearing a completely different fucking outfit, and my hat's on a different way round. But yeah, you're here with Tom, you're here with Jake, you're here with Aidan. How are you boys doing?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm sweet, mate.
You're sweet.
Sweet, mate.
Sweet
And these beers,
cup.
basically, we haven't cleared the table since our last episode. That's why there's still four. Actually, there's five.
Basically, behind the scenes, when the podcast's finished, Tom closes the door. Me and Aidan stay in here until the next episode.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like my weird little human mannequins. So,
we just stay in here, and Tom just plays UK hip hop on repeat, and we've just been forced to listen to it.
Oh man, yeah, peek behind the curtain and it's fucking disturbing. So so welcome to our New Year's Eve edition. This is a mini-sode, so it's not going to take too much of your time, thank fuck. We're going to be talking about our favourite or most notable albums of the decade. So obviously that's no easy feat. There's been a lot of heat coming out this decade in hip-hop in general. So it's not restricted to UK, it's US, it's French, it's anything you want. Again, we haven't conversed beforehand, so we don't know each other's choices. So it should be quite good grounds for conversation, boys.
I think the UK in particular, in this decade, has been a massive up and down kind of. If you go towards the start of the decade, look at the artists now. If you go to the start of the decade, it was at this weird point of nothing was really happening, and then I don't know what year German Whip came out, and that was a kind of a bit of a turning point, and then from there like Jeremy and Skepta and then it just and then fast forward to the end of this decade. And suddenly, UK is massive. It's huge. It's blown up.
It's global, man. But then it's the differentiation between the UK rap, the hip hop, the grime. Do you know what I mean? It's not just one. It's not really one entity anymore, is it? It's
just
growing
legs. Kind of merged into one. But so that's the first point to make about this decade. Is kind of that start to finish.
Did you know? Did you know the High Focus channel? I'm just looking up now. The High Focus channel on YouTube was started on the 30th of June 2010.
Damn, are you joking?
Yeah.
Right, that's interesting.
So that is this decade.
Okay, man. That's obviously.
That's mad, isn't it? That's quite interesting, though, isn't it? Now this decade has sort of been the decade of UK. And actually another interesting thing. Let's have a look. So the channel Vice.
Mm-hmm.
That was started in 2005.
Okay. I think that's definitely spawned into something completely different, hasn't it?
Yes.
I used to like Vice, but I unfollowed Vice fucking ages ago. I just can't be doing with it. It just triggers me. Vice triggers me in every possible fucking way. But anyway, so we're obviously going to target this based on our favourite or most notable albums of the decade.
Yep.
The parameters are the only rule is that it has to be a hip-hop album. It doesn't matter what country it comes from. That's the only rules that apply in this conversation.
Okay.
So how do we want to start it? Who wants to make a start? Obviously, there's, and we will. And just as a disclaimer, we're gonna miss shit out. 10 years is a long time. So in preparation for this episode, we just kind of thought back to some of the albums that we talked about in our Christmas episode that we've been kind of bumping non-stop, or it comes to mind when you think of albums of the decade. It's not something you have to kind of struggle to think of. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
so that's the best way to quantify it. So who wants to make a start? And we can obviously, we don't have to
Good Kid, Mad City.
I think that's a good jumping off point, man. Kendrick Lamar, Good Kid, Mad City. For me, it's To Pimp a Butterfly as well deserves a mention, I'd say. I think two very different projects, but Good Kid, Mad City is when, obviously, K-Dot, you had the stuff with, when he was going by K-Dot, and Good Kid, Mad City was his kind of blow-up album, man.
Yeah, it's more to the roots.
I've got such good memory of going to see Kendrick Lamar in Bristol with my homeboy big up Az. I had a broken leg at the time. It was fucking snowing outside. And I was just kind of resting at the back of the gig. I think it's the O2 in Bristol, and he did backseat freestyle, and water being chucked in the air, and it was just popping off, and I was just gutted. I had a broken leg and I couldn't get amongst it.
Yeah.
But that album is and Mad City, that track.
Mad City is such seeing that live when I saw it at the O2. And again, like when did you see him in Bristol?
The O2 in Bristol.
When?
Oh, it was years ago, mate. Like 7 years ago.
Yeah, so obviously
It's when it drops. It's when the album dropped. Yeah.
Fast forward to not this year, last year. Again, you've got Kendrick Lamar. Damn comes out and he's playing the O2 in London. A massive arena tour.
Good Kid, Mad City came out in 2012.
Yeah.
And if you
When I
think,
started driving, that's what it reminds me of.
you think of some of the fucking tracks on this album. So that's Shireen, Master Splinter's daughter, and we talked about in the last episode. That's what Aidan did, is Raise the Bars to. Bitch Don't Kill My Vibe, obviously, like everyone fucking.
Poetic Justice with Drake, that's a sick track.
Money Trees. And Mad City with MC8, and how that track splits in two. Do you know what I mean? When MC8 comes in, it's like nothing but a Compton thing. Yeah. It's just, oh man, that album is absolute level.
And then To Pimp a Butterfly, a very more like social,
more of a concept piece, wasn't it?
Album. And the best bit on that album is Mortal Man, which is a track that at the end, Kendrick interviews Tupac. So what he does is he gets this old Tupac interview in it, and he kind of edits it in a way where Kendrick's having not interview, like a conversation, actually, not an interview.
Yeah.
It was an interview of Tupac, but the way it's edited on Mortal Man, it's like a conversation between Kendrick and Tupac, and it's sick, and it's just a perfect way to like finish off that album. So 2 albums that have really smashed it this decade from Kendrick.
And this is the thing, like, I often say, you know, people kind of don't give Kendrick the credit he deserves. Like, you know, kind of boom bap heads are like, oh yeah, Kendrick this, Kendrick that. But like, even in like, if you listen to his lyrics and like the meaning behind some of the tracks, you know, like King Kunta obviously came out, and that's like and that's obviously like quite a commercial sounding song. It's quite like upbeat and everything else.
Summary.
Yeah, with like the sample of like We Want the Funk in there as well.
We want the funk.
But it's actually kind of like based on like almost like a folk tale. Like the whole backstory is like based on this really like interesting folk tale. So if you kind of strip back the meaning behind the song, it's like, whoa, man.
Is that the track that ends on like, almost like him addressing a live audience?
It's like, I got a bone to pick.
No, not the song, but at the end of it. It kind of goes, the beat stops and it's kind of like, listen. Oh no, I'll go a different track.
Yeah, man. But so I think like Kendrick's definitely a good kicking off point, like hip hop in general. I think he's like one of the more seminal artists to emerge from this decade for sure.
As well, he's a great sort of story, isn't he? Because he's come from Compton. He's come from a very disadvantaged background. I mean, I don't really know too much about it, but he's come from what I understand through interviews, he's come from a disadvantaged background and made his mark on the scene, gone past gang culture and whatever issues he had to deal with growing up, and really actually made something of himself.
Just listen to that track Duckworth, man, on the end of Damn. Do you know what I mean? Like, and listening to it in reverse and like what could have happened if like events had turned out in a different way.
It's mad, isn't it? It's great, and full on respect for that guy, you know.
And I just love the whole of Black Hippie, you know, Absol and like and J Rock and Schoolboy Q. I think those guys are just making like some of like the grittiest fucking hip hop. I didn't really rate Schoolboy Q's last album, but I love the Ghost, Blank Face and all that stuff. And J Rock's album though, man, that was. It's not my album of the decade, but ES Tales is like one of my favorite tracks, probably of. I think it dropped last year. Was it last year that came out?
Yeah.
It was amidst like Kanye. Yeah.
Last year.
But yeah, man, like for sure, Kendrick between Good Kid, Mad City, and The Pimp a Butterfly, Damn deserves a mention. But out of those 2, for me, probably just edge it. Sorry, man. What's,
no, I'm agree. Yeah, that's like...
So how do you want to do this? You want to just go around and all drop an album?
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man, go for it. If you, Aidan, it's on you, man.
My music taste has developed a lot within the last, I would say, 2 years. And, you know, if I was to go back more than 2 years ago, the sort of albums that I would say is my albums of the decade would be not UK hip hop, not hip hop at all. It'd be very much like rock, heavy metal, emo sort of music, that sort of shit. So I can really only go off of what's been put out in the last couple of years in terms of albums which have had a real impact in terms of me going forward in my life and in my decade as well. So, do you know what? I'll always go back to an album which really I think had an impact on me, and I really enjoyed it, and I bumped it for a long time. One of my favorite albums of the decade is going to be "Sucking on Plums on Moonlight."
Well, Dirty Dike, man.
Yeah, man, and I think the reason for that is very much escapism. You go into like another world. You know, it's interesting to listen to. You're taken down a fucking journey. You know,
Mhm.
and you go from song to song to song to song, but it's like chapter to chapter to chapter of different like short stories, and that's what I really
Little
rate about it.
vignettes, yeah, man.
Yeah.
I-
And you know, don't get me wrong. There are other Apple albums of the decade, and I could spend hours like going through my Spotify playlist, going from YouTube if you like videos, and thinking of every single song that I've listened to. But if we're gonna judge it on albums that we rate and albums that we've that's had an impact on us, it should really come down to, you know, the album that you can think of.
Yeah,
off the top
what
of your head,
pops
do you
into
know
your
what
head
I
at the
mean?
time?
Do you know what
Exactly,
I mean?
man. Exactly.
And for me, it is the album, and it's going to be Dirty Dike because you know, for all of hip hop, you know, he's always had and just an impact on me in terms of Dirty Dike's way of speaking, his way of going about things, his mentality, and that he portrays completely into his music, man. And
Yeah,
and
I really.
I know we because you obviously feel a bit different about Dirty Dike.
No,
don't you?
man. So I've had a bit of like a learning curve on Dyke. So I've listened to Dirty Dyke for a long time, and I rate him as an MC. I think
Yeah.
he's like incredible. He's an incredible lyricist, and the fact that he kind of like is who he is, and he's honest, and that's portrayed in what he raps about. I rate that, and I really rate his work rate and work ethic as well. Something I've come to appreciate more, and a lot of people have kind of mentioned it coming through on the podcast, is that his way of like you can, and this is actually a true statement. When he raps, you can understand every single word that he's saying with conviction. Do you know what I mean? Like everything he says, you're just like, that's just like any bloke telling me his story, but I understand it all. There's no kind of like pretense. There's no kind of like bells and whistles. It's just like, this is this guy. And it's not always something I kind of like gravitate towards. There are certain tracks I'm not like particularly fond of, but that's music in general. It's subjective. But as an artist, he's grown on me a fucking lot during this process. Do you know what I mean? I've always like, there's always been my favourite tracks. You know what I mean? Like Pork Pie is obviously like an absolute classic. Hi, I'm James is an absolute classic. What was the name of the album that dropped end of last year?
Fucking hell, I say I'm a big Dyke fan, but I'll have to check that, man. But yeah,
It was. Let me correct this.
100%. So it was Constant Dyke Star. So
No, it was
No,
Acrylic.
wasn't it?
It was
Oh, fucking
Acrylic
hell.
Snail.
That's the first
Constant
album that
Dyke
comes
Star
up.
was the first album. Yeah, so
Acrylic Snail.
Acrylic Snail is the
So,
one that came out. Yeah, that
the-
album was amazing.
You're completely right there. Every single, I feel like when you listen to a Dyke album, right, you go into another world and you're taken into like a book of short stories, and you know you go into these stories, but it's not told. It's a story that's not told with loads of like metaphor, where it's kind of like you listen to it and you get it, but you've got to sort of actually
Oh
sit
yeah, man.
down.
He calls a spade a spade. He just says it how it is. doesn't he?
You've got to sort. You're like, it's not an album where you've got to sit down and think, okay, what does that mean? What does that
So
mean? What
you're
does that mean?
basically describing Jan Baxter, like because Jan Baxter like is an artist who I would rather listen to personally.
Yeah,
I just
for
think
sure, yeah.
in terms of like cadence and vocal tone and just the way that I love, you know, what he raps about and the metaphor, the pictures he paints with his words, I find more kind of captivating.
Yeah.
But I respect Dyke's kind of like frankness
yeah.
and directness with his lyrics and his bars.
Yeah, and
So-
it's
and I've-
interesting because my one of my best mates, Chrissy, like he loves Jan Baxter, and he'll always bump and go towards Jan Baxter because he loves that sort of metaphors and the stories.
It's
and
his
stuff like
voice
that.
for me, man.
Whereas
It's just
for,
kind of
for
like
me, like
got a cool
and
delivery.
it's not to say that I like, you know, I don't like metaphors because I do, but I also do appreciate the way that Dyke doesn't. It's not like a simplistic way of doing it. Do you know what I mean? I
Yeah,
don't
man.
want to pull anything away
No,
from
no,
like
no, I
Messi
hear-
and
I
say
hear
that
what you
it's
mean,
more
man.
simplistic. I want to say that actually it's not. It's a way of telling a story and a way of telling something and writing a song with such impact and such delivery
Yeah.
that capitulates the listener,
Yeah.
but still makes them want to listen to the next verse, next verse without having a fucking clue what the fuck is going to happen to this person or how
Yeah.
the fuck is this story going to end. And that's what I really rate.
It's almost
about
like the
Dyke.
streets. It's so the streets don't
Okay, yeah,
make
yeah,
anything
yeah,
that
yeah.
fancy, but it's still you listen to it, like, but they don't. They're not you chucking metaphors
They're
after
still
you. It's
holding
just
on to each
it's
line, each
it's just
lyric, innit?
I
it's
think
just
this-
your everyday bloke, everyday geezer talking, but
I think the Streets and Dyke is a really apt comparison, to be fair. Like, they're obviously very different artists, but there's something similar about the way they kind of deliver a message, and it's
Yeah.
very, like, engaging. Do you know what I
I
mean?
think what you said about a spade is spade.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
It says it as it is, not fucking putting any bullshit twist on. Not bullshit, but not putting any twist on it. Saying as it is, and just delivering it, but delivering it in his own sort of style that just works. Fucking
Yeah, I think
wonders, man.
obviously there's that whole kind of like that plays on its audience. Like Dyke's this kind of big kind of like wreckhead and this that and the other. But when in reality, yeah, that's probably his past. But he is a really hard working artist. You know what I mean? Like it's all kind of like everything he does is kind of like is to push his kind of brand and push his music and all that kind
Again,
of thing.
yeah,
Do
you
you know what I mean?
should-
He's not. Well, I'm obviously I don't know the guy, but like he might be getting fucked up every night. But I guarantee he's just like taking the back seat for that and making music. Do you know what I mean?
But you follow him on social medias, man. He's in the studio every other night. I swear. You know, it's he's
Exactly.
not going out. He's actually he is working.
Cool.
He is grinding, and it's like that sort of love for music. And do you know what? I really rate when you and this is a good thing about social media because you sort of I think a lot of artists. Do you think it's fair to say that a lot of artists will put an album and go on holiday for like a year and go travel for which is fine and there's nothing wrong with that. But then it's also good to some people put an album but then they'll keep working with
I
other
think it
people,
depends
keep
if you
doing-
have the luxury to do that.
yeah,
Like if
it's-
you're in like a scene as small as like the UK.
caught that on my knuckle.
If you're in a scene as small as the UK and you don't necessarily have like the luxury of doing that.
yeah.
Like
I
UK
get
hip hop
what
is
you
not.
mean,
There's
yeah.
not much. Well, another fucking learning curve. There's like no money in UK hip hop. Do you know what I mean? There's fucking no money. Like UK rap, grime maybe, but none in UK hip hop. And I think like it's a testament to the work rate. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's constantly like
sure.
making something new. It's touring and the stuff he's doing tour wise as well. I appreciate we're going off on a bit of a tangent here, but the stuff he's kind of injecting into the tour, putting a caravan on stage.
I'm gutted I didn't go to one of your shows. I'm so gutted that I didn't go to a Dyke show. But to hear about it from other people and to find out what it was like the guy bought a fucking caravan on stage.
Yeah. You often see him like Facebooking and tweeting people to ask for like mopeds or like caravans or like random shit.
And that's but that's the thing. I don't know any other.
I think he
artist that
encapsulates UK hip hop in a sense, doesn't he? Because he is like the everyday bloke from the UK rapping about his life, and that's all it is. Do you know what I mean? And it works.
Apart from the Owls, I don't know another like performer that puts that much time and effort into the actual performance. Not to undermine any performer, but I'm saying like. Because, like you say, there's not much money in UK hip hop. Let's be honest.
But
it's not that progressive a scene because, like I said, there's not much money. So there's no money into fancy shows and fancy stages. Like, why would you spend all your money if you know you're not really going to make it back? It's normal.
And I'd like to think that and obviously conversations we had, what he's doing is obviously like. He's raising the game for other people. Some other people are like, shit, yeah, I actually want to do something different with my stage presence. I want to like inject something
it's
different.
mad.
Right, so Sucking on Prawns in the Moonlight, that's one of your favourite albums of the decade.
Yeah, man.
All right, man. Jake, you got another one?
We've got time. Sorry, viewers, who tuned out after the 10 minutes that Tom promised you.
That's all right, mate. It's all right. You've had plenty of time to think of another album that you've listened to this decade, Jake.
Oh, mate, this decade's been mad. There's been a lot of good shit. But when I have to think about an album, I have to think about whose decade it's been. And it's been Drake's decade, obviously. So I'm gonna go with. I'm just gonna go with Take Care as. Well, Kendrick's albums that we've mentioned would have been my albums of the decade, but we've already spoke about them. So
We don't need. It doesn't need to be limited though. Like,
I know, but I'm gonna now we've already spoken about them. I'm gonna go with. I'm gonna choose Take Care as kind of like a starting off point
all right, man.
for me. And I think
Yeah.
the 10 years of Drake and what he's done in music, outside of music, all together, I think as a whole, that's why I would say it's kind of been his decade.
Mate, I mean, obviously he's had an
Personally.
impact. Yeah. So like, without kind of hijacking Drake and stuff. Obviously, we spoke about him quite a bit. Anyway, you can't talk about this decade and not talk about Run the Jewels.
Okay.
You can't talk about like the resurgence of and like the renaissance of LP and Killer Mike coming together, making some really really innovative, really like banging, really like lyrical rap. Do you know what I mean? Like really kind of like just fucking no holds barred, sick fucking rap. Two guys in their 40s. Do you know what I mean? There's so much to be said for that. Out of the 3 records that have been released so far, not including Meow the Jewels, the all cat limited edition of Run the Jewels 2. But Run the Jewels 2 is probably my favourite out of the 3 that's been released.
Red one. I only know him by
the red one.
yeah.
The red one, yeah. So, although A Christmas Fucking Miracle on the first one's like probably, yeah, I love that track. But yeah, Run the Jewels is definitely up there for me, man.
I like their flow, especially over and the choice of beats. And then the kind of how it fits with the flow.
LP's a sick producer.
Yeah.
And Killer Mike as well is obviously just like, I mean, I only really knew of Killer Mike before from Dungeon Family, of Outkast back in the day. So I'd heard him like featured on loads of tracks. You remember The Whole World and all that stuff.
Going on to from what you said as well, the fact that
Aidan's pointing at me in a really
this
sinister
decade's
way.
been fucking mad is the fact that people Killer Mike. They've had a Netflix series, man.
Yeah, man, I know.
And that's and YouTube series, and it's just been a massive, I don't know, just push in the right sort of direction of all this urban music. Do you know what I mean?
I love that, man.
Fucking
Need to make a gif of that.
Urban. I fucking hate the word urban, but that's the only word to describe it. This sort of direction of music. The fact
What
that
do you call it? Urban.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, man. So another one of my favorite albums of the decade, and one that really resonates with me is Verb T's Morning Process on High Focus Records. So this is his first ever High Focus release. Verb T obviously came through a couple of weeks ago, so I've got the limited edition yellow pressing. It's just a really sick album. I remember going to Berlin with Adam Spong, Large Up, and this was like the soundtrack to that trip to Berlin. Do you know what I mean? Like every single track on here is sick. Fucking Leaf Dog's beats on here are incredible. Verb T just absolutely smashes it.
Yeah.
It's just definitely one of those albums that just springs to mind when I think albums of the decade.
Yeah, man,
I thought to myself did that come out this decade? It's like 2012. So yeah,
Reminds me of this time last year that song. The trap Morning Process.
yeah, Morning
It
Process.
reminds me of when we were in the with that barbecue thing and
Yeah, man.
Yeah, and then you played it. I remember that. That's
It's
what
just-
it reminds me of.
And
Reminds me of Tom.
Verb T is one of those
Yeah,
artists because for me, and we've talked about this a lot, like voice is everything. Like you can be technically
Voice is an
gifted.
instrument, isn't it?
If you've got an annoying voice, I just don't want to know. And Verb T has got the coolest fucking voice, I think. As a rapper, when he bless his beats, you're like Verb T, just smooth, man. Do you know what I mean?
Like a deep husky.
Yeah, smooth like butter. Do you know what I mean? And it's kind of
All right, Tom,
It's
take
just-
it easy, man.
yeah, and that album, man, is just that's a seminal album for me. As is, and I checked, it is this decade, 2010, Rhyme Asylum,
Oh, mate.
Solitary Confinement. So obviously, Skirmish has been on the podcast a couple of times this year. He was kind enough to give me a copy of State of Lunacy and Solitary Confinement that came out in 2010. Obviously, this didn't have the original lineup, so you've got Skirmish, Possess, and Cyclone on here, and it is such a fucking banging album. You got features from the likes of Crooked Eye, King Crooked now, Ill Bill, and it's just. I remember listening to this. So it's just a banging UK hip hop album. Some call it horrorcore. I can see that there's definitely elements of that in there based on like the lyrical content, but it is so layered in terms of the bars that they spit.
For sure, man.
And I'm not
There's
even
so
going
much
to try
depth
to
to it,
butcher them
so
now,
much
but if
depth.
you actually analyze the lyrics in this thing and then strip it back, it demonstrates some of the most kind of intricate wordplay and to come out of the UK, in my opinion. So this Rhyme Asylum. I'm gutted that they split up, but obviously they went their separate ways for whatever reason. But that's definitely up there for me, man. Also, this decade's Freddie Gibbs and Madlib, not Bandana, but Pinata. Pinata is a classic, in my opinion. I think it's kind of like it was just it just worked so well, man. The features in that track, I mean, it features from like Scarface, got like Danny Brown on that album. Again, it was just that perfect marriage of like MC and producer, Freddie Gibbs and Madlib. Yeah, man.
Mad. Big up.
Yeah.
Nice.
I've got loads more, but I think they're the kind of ones that kind of jump out at me at the moment.
yeah.
Obviously, A Tribe Called Quest released a fucking album in this decade.
It's
Do you know what I
mad
mean?
because you that's the thing. A decade is 10 fucking years. And going back to what we always speak about, man. You think about in the last week how much music's already come out.
A lot.
You know?
Yeah.
You think about a decade, how much. But then again, going back to like the albums that jump out to you, the first things in your head is the ones that obviously had an influence on you.
Yeah.
But you're naturally always going to be biased towards the things that came out later. Rather, you're not gonna pluck out your head like an album that came out in 2001, are you?
No, I mean, it's not this decade, is it? But
Oh yeah, 2000.
yeah, but anyway, but yeah, like I mean, there's so much dope stuff's come out in the last decade. Like one of my favorite like rap outfits is the Roots, you know, and obviously now it's a shame because they're like basically, I heard this on another podcast. They've been taken hostage by Jimmy Fallon as like his house band. You know what I mean? Like, and obviously that's great for them because they're making a lot of money. But what it means is they don't tour as much. It probably limits their kind of creative output. But How I Got Over, the album that dropped, I think it was this decade, was fucking incredible. And obviously their back catalogue, I own every single Roots album, like on hard copy. Like I think they're absolutely amazing.
Prove it.
I can, man.
No, that's fine. I'm joking.
I've got the CDs. And that album was so good, man.
Yeah.
You got like features on there from like Blue and all sorts.
Right.
Oh my god, when did Blue and Exile Below the Heavens come out?
This decade.
Hold on.
Yeah, bro. Must have come out in like 2000. I reckon. Yeah, I reckon. it was
Let me
this
validate
decade.
this. Blue. Let me check. So talk amongst yourselves in the meantime, lads. Yeah, 2007. So missed the boat on that one. But yeah, I think those are like the main ones. I think like Kendrick Lamar, Verb T, The Morning Process, Rhyme Asylum. Another fucking album that came out a few years ago. Have you heard of No Name? She's a female rapper.
Like I have, yeah.
Does stuff with like Saba and those types of guys.
Right.
And she released an album called Telephone, and it was amazing.
Okay.
Really, really good, man. There's a track on there called Reality Check, which is like one of my favorite songs to come out of this decade. Likewise, Shadow Man, that was a sick track. Yeah, really good, man. I think you'd like it.
It's been a
She
mad
did a
decade,
Tiny Desk as
hasn't
well.
it? Yeah. It's just been a mad desk over. I think we've glossed over as well Little Sims. This year.
We should have actually included that in our 2019
yeah.
conversation. Because I thought that, like, so we
Acting
obviously...
career.
Like last episode, we talked about our favorite releases of 2019, and we kind of glossed over Slow Tie. We touched upon it.
Yeah, big
But
UK artist.
Slow
man.
Tie, ain't nothing great about Britain, and Little Sims, Grey Area. I think we should get called out for that
We should.
because they're two
shame on
sick
us.
albums. But you can't,
But I think that's a wrap, guys. It's 10 years.
I think What are your favourite albums of the decade? Do you know what I mean? Like, comment below. Like, what are your favourite albums of the decade? What are glaring omissions? We've missed so much, no doubt. Do you know what I mean? We've missed like loads of Griselda stuff. Depending if that's your shit, we've missed like.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Kanye West.
Yeah, we've missed Kanye West.
Kids See Ghosts. You rated that album, didn't you?
I did. Yeah, I rate it. And what else came out from Kanye?
But we all know deep
Life
down.
of Pablo came out this decade.
We all know deep down that
Jesus came out this
the
decade.
best album of the decade is Big Daddy Rap Beast, Pete My Jawns.
Pete My Jawns.
You heard it
I
here.
thought we were doing our own mini episode on that album alone.
Yeah,
And
stay
the
tuned.
best podcast of this episode of this decade.
Crate 808.
Nah, rate
Certificates in the post.
No, big up. So big up everyone for following. Big up everyone who's listening. Put your favorite albums in the comments below,
For sure.
Like a big thumbs up as well.
and subscribe to that shit.
Subscribe. Hit the bell.
And
hit the bell.
more importantly, people, happy new fucking year. Have
see
a
you.
happy
So
and
we
healthy
got big
one.
things.
Yeah, exactly. And we're at Shotgun The Aux. Where can you find us? That's more or less it.
You can find us everywhere.
Everywhere, yeah, exactly.
Check
In your nan's
wardrobes, bruv.
bathroom. Thank you.
Yeah, take care, guys. Happy New Year.